Melissa from Meditative Astrology, and I'm here to talk to you about the astrology of May 18th through 24th. We have several things that are going on here this week, so before we talk about all of that, I want to remind you to like, follow, and subscribe so that way you don't miss any of our videos or things that come up here, including our live meditations on Sunday nights at 8:30 p.m. So we start out on Sunday with the moon in the sign of Capricorn. It will ingress into the sign of Aquarius about 1:30 a.m. Eastern time. So really the moon will be in the sign of Aquarius all day starting out the week here on Sunday. We also have a square between Mercury and Mars coming through here right at the beginning of the week. We start off the week with possible discourse between these two planets and a need to reconcile. When you have planets in square, they are challenging each other to reconcile their differences and to find a way where they can both express themselves individually, but in a way that they can work together. So it's a place where we can grow from, even if there's some challenges and obstacles that come from it. With Mercury and Mars, there could be mental or communicative challenges that come up here. There may be a need to problem solve or to shift things under some sort of pressure. It could be that the way that we talk, the way that we communicate, there's something that we need to say, something related to Mars, something related to our drives and our motivations and the things that we want and the movements that we are taking. Mars is in the sign of Leo, so it's in a fire sign. It's kind of loud. We have Mercury in the sign of Taurus. It's an earth sign. It's a Venus sign, so it wants to take its time. It wants to be slow, stable, practical. Leo is much louder than that and much more showy than that. So these two planets in these signs are trying to find a way to do their own thing at the same time and work together. There can be a little difficulty at first, but if these two planets can come together, they can problem solve like no other, especially under pressure. So there feels like there's a way within this aspect that flexibility and shifting may be key. Both Mercury and Mars are planets that like to move. They're swift, they're quick moving. They like to change things, and they're not necessarily wanting to have things static and unchanging, but they're both in solid signs. That's part of the nature of the square. So they're both in fixed, slow to move, slow to change signs here. So they both might be a little bit stubborn. Taurus can be a little bit bullheaded, and Leo can be a little bit center focused. So that can be where the struggle may be here coming through the beginning of this week. That Aquarius moon that we have on Sunday will take us right into Monday, May 19th, where it will be all day, making a couple aspects. We also have the sun coming into a sextile with Saturn at the 29th degree of their signs. So we have the sun at 29 degrees of Taurus, and we have Saturn at 29 degrees of Pisces. The 29th degree suggests some sort of completion, culmination, things coming to closure, coming to an end. And that is very symbolic here. Not only do we have the sun getting ready to change signs, which it does, once a month, so that happens on a regular basis, but we also have Saturn ingressing into the sign of Aries by the end of the week. So we are reaching into the end of the era of Saturn in the sign of Pisces, reaching into the beginning of the era of Saturn in the sign of Aries. So there is a symbolic illumination of that with Sun and Saturn coming in here at the beginning of this week. So there may be a serious focus. There may be a place of contemplation and considering. There may be looking at the frameworks and the foundations of our lives and the different systems and patterns that are here, and an evolution that happens with that. The sun can represent that which is eternal, that which is unchanging. Saturn can represent shifting, death, old age, maturation. Together, both of these planets can represent a stepping into a new level of understanding and a new level of experience. So considering everything that Saturn in the sign of Pisces has brought up for us, looking at the house topics of Pisces within our own birth chart, looking at collectively how we've seen Saturn and Pisces showing up throughout the populations, looking at what is coming to an end here, what is shifting, and where can we contemplate on that? Where can we put a little bit of a focus on that here coming through this week? And as we contemplate these processes, how can we look at the evolution of the processes? How can we look at the evolution of our own souls and our own path here? Strong energy starting out on both Sunday and Monday this week here. So that Aquarius moon that we have on Monday will take us right into Tuesday, May 20th. The moon will start out in the sign of Aquarius and it will ingress into the sign of Pisces around 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, moving into the last quarter moon phase for this lunar cycle. We also have a couple planetary aspects coming through here this week. We have another aspect to Mars. Venus is going to be trining Mars. So Venus in the sign of Aries, trining Mars in the sign of Leo. When you have a trine, these planets are trying to help each other. They're trying to aid each other. They are trying to expand what they are trying to do and lend a hand to each other. You have the quintessential masculine energy and the quintessential feminine energy trying to work together within these fire signs, places that can be of loud expression. So there can be a fiery, passionate, and creative drive as these two planets come together. We can find new ways of doing things. We can find new inspirations. Maybe there's motivations that come up here. But when these two planets are interacting in a trine, in one of the most favorable aspects, other than maybe a conjunction coming through here, they're able to lend a hand to each other. They're able to help each other. And these two are going to be traveling together all week within about a degree of each other, and they're going to be within 3 degrees of each other until May 29th. So we have this period here for the second half of May where we can find some sort of union of the masculine and the feminine energy, that extrovert and introvert energy, that giving and receiving energy, and doing so in a place of fire, a place of Leo and a place of Aries. These are places that like to move, they like to speak, they like to move forward in a loud and creative way that is heard and seen. So this is a fun energy that we have coming through the second half of the month here. On this day, we also have the sun moving into the sign of Gemini. So happy birthday to you, Gemini suns out there. As well as just the sun being in whatever house Gemini occupies for the next month for each and every one of us. In the sign of Gemini, there is a focus on communication. There's a desire to understand small details, wanting to bring in different information and dissecting that information, questioning what we are bringing in, exploring, finding a curiosity within that. There's an open-mindedness that comes in the sign of Gemini. Jupiter is still in the sign of Gemini, so the sun will be co-present with Jupiter, applying towards a conjunction with Jupiter. So just kind of keeping in mind that will start slowly building as this comes through. And as it enters the sign of Gemini, it's instantly going to start engaging with a trine to Pluto. So if we are wanting to bring in more information and understand things in the sign of Gemini, coming into that trine with Pluto is going to have us looking deep and wanting to investigate all the little details, wanting to understand all of the different parts and bringing them all together, however that is playing out in our lives here. So really it's a information investigative energy that we have coming through right at the beginning of Gemini season here. That moon on Tuesday will take us right into Wednesday, where the moon will be in the sign of Pisces all day. As the moon moves through the beginning of Gemini, it's going to make a sextile to Neptune. This is a quick, maybe subtle aspect, but there is an intuitive instinct that comes along with Sun-Neptune transits. Beneficial connections, inspirations can show up here. It could be kind of subtle, but it could be one of those things where like you just have gut feelings about things, and there's an understanding, there's a knowing, there's a flowing, as well as, you know, on the maybe less positive or more shadow side of Neptune, we could be wanting to fill ourselves up with escaping from something or moving away from something, and but mostly this is a positive aspect coming through here on Wednesday. That Pisces moon Wednesday will take us right into Thursday, May 22nd. The moon will start out in the sign of Pisces and it will move into the sign of Aries around 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. We have Mercury making a sextile to the North Node on this day. So there's a clarity and there's an ability to move on and release potentially with this coming through. The North Node being a point that that intrigues us, a point that we are moving towards or that we are seeking out, that we feel drawn to, something that catches our eye or that we desire to move towards. The South Node being a place that we find release, a place that we find rest, a place that we feel called to move away from in certain ways. There's a tug and pull between the space where you find the North and the South Node. When you have Mercury there, you can have that mental amplification of that tug and pull between moving towards something and moving away and releasing from something. There are strong mental capabilities and potentially tools and resources that come to our aid here as Mercury moves into the sextile to the North Node, trining the South Node. Subtly moving towards things with the sextile to the North Node. Big expansive energy on the releasing end with the trine to the South Node there. So the ability to release, move on, move forward, and communicate effectively those things that we are wanting to release, even if that's just, whether that's communicating with others or communicating with even just ourselves and within our own mental sphere there. So that's what we have coming through on Thursday. That Aries moon will take us right into Friday, May 23rd, where the moon will be in the sign of Aries all day, making a conjunction to Venus around 5 p.m. Eastern time. This is the day where Sun is going to make that exact trine to Pluto. So we mentioned earlier in the week, as soon as the Sun enters the sign of Gemini, it's going to be engaging with that trine to Pluto. So this is an energy that is building here this week. That illumination of the hidden information, hidden material coming up. It can be that which is unspoken, avoided, or just that which has previously been unseen or unknown. Or just stepping into our own strong power, stepping into our own will, stepping into our own strength. The sun representing the soul and our own autonomy, energy. It's that illumination within us that is unchanging, and it's that consistent part of us. So if we have that coming into interaction with Pluto, which has this deep-seated underground power with it, we can find an ability to stand in our own strength and our own power that comes from within here. The trine is of the air element, so there is a mental, rational, and communicative aspect to the trine that we have with Sun and Pluto coming through here this week. So it might be a little bit more in the mental sphere rather than in the physical sphere here. So that's what we have on Friday. And then that Aries moon on Friday will take us right into Saturday, May 24th. The moon will move into the sign of Taurus in the afternoon around 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, making a square to Pluto later on in the evening. And this is the day where we have Mercury conjoining Uranus in the sign of Taurus. We've had this building for the last little while, and there are mental breakthroughs that can come through when Mercury and Uranus come together in the conjunction. The conjunction is the strongest aspect that you can have. These two planets are coming together in a bodily union of some kind. They are marrying and unifying their two different significations. So Mercury being the planet of our mind, our thoughts, the way we communicate, the way we perceive our own communication and the way that we perceive the way other people speak with us. That is coming into contact with Uranus, the planet of breakthrough, the planet of rebellion, and the planet of stepping into new energy, the planet of wanting to do something a little different, stepping outside of the mold. So maybe we start to think a little different as Mercury and Uranus come together. Maybe we see a different perspective. Maybe we want to think a different way, or we want to express ourselves a different way. Maybe there's something that we've been holding back. And as these two planets come together, we're able to stand in that courageous energy to be able to individuate our own thoughts. And we might be able to express ourselves in a little bit more individual way, or a little bit more firmly than we have before. It might catch people up by surprise. That's the nature of Uranus. It might catch us by surprise. So things can shift and change pretty quickly with Uranus. So just keeping that in mind when we're talking about the words and the things that we say and whatnot, that Uranus can surprise everybody that is involved. So just keeping that in mind here as we round out the rest of the week. We also have Saturn moving into the sign of Aries this day. So I feel like that sign change just kind of amplifies that little intense moment that you have of Mercury and Uranus coming through. That can be a quick but powerful aspect coming on. And then Saturn moving into the sign of Aries later on that night is going to be ushering in a new era for us. Like we said, earlier in this week, we had that interaction with the Sun and Saturn that really felt like it's signifying this era shift. So we really are stepping into a new energy in the sign of Aries and the house and the topics that Aries falls in within our own lives here. Saturn in the sign of Pisces is a little bit more quiet, a little bit more reserved, and a little less reactive than Saturn in the sign of Aries. Saturn in Aries can be more active, more extrovert rather than introvert and subtle like the sign of Pisces. It can be more tangible. It can be that we see it and experience it in a little bit louder way. And it can be moving from an area of reflection to an area of initiating energy or starting things. So as we move into this new era, as we start this new era, how can we think about the frameworks and the foundations that can be initiated in the sign of Aries and in those topics of our lives that the house where Aries falls in our own birth chart represents? The house where you find Aries is going to be a place that, depending on what else is going on, naturally likes to initiate, likes to create, likes to start things. Now Saturn, the planet of frameworks, boundaries, limitations, and the systems of our lives is coming into that sign and into that house. So new frameworks that can stand the test of time may be formulating over these next couple of years where we have Saturn in the sign of Aries. You may see a more serious or focus on the house and the topics that are coming up there, where it's been there's been a big focus and a big theme of the house where you find Pisces in your chart, as Saturn has been moving through the sign of Pisces. So really we have quite a bit that is going on here this week. It's one of the busier weeks of May for sure here coming in, and I hope that everybody has an absolute wonderful week with everything that we have going on. If you have enjoyed rolling through this week and looking at all the details here with me, I invite you to join us at our live astrological meditation every Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It correlates and flows pretty well with the weekly video. So this video has the comprehensive details and step-by-step of the week, and then in the meditation, we find a way where we can lean a little bit more specifically into the energies in a constructive and conscious way. So I invite you to our live meditation, and then I invite you to come back next week for looking at the next week's astrology. So I hope everybody has an absolute great week, and I will see you next time.